They thought they owned my lake. They thought money, power, and sheer arrogance could strip away something that had been in my family for generations. They thought they could come in, bulldoze through nature, build their vacation playground, and treat me like I was some insignificant obstacle in their way. But when you grow up by the water, when you understand every inch of shoreline, every current, every secret of the land, you learn that patience and silence can be deadlier than any lawyer's threat. So while they were busy building 99 shiny new vacation cabins on land, they didn't truly understand. I was planning, waiting, watching. And when the time was right, I opened the dam and drowned every last one of their dreams overnight. You see, this lake wasn't just water to me. It wasn't just a pretty view or a plot of land on a map. It was where I grew up, where my father taught me to fish before dawn, where my mother used to sit on the dock with her coffee, and where my grandfather once told me, "Water remembers, son. It remembers who respects it and who doesn't." Those words stuck with me. The lake was my heritage, my responsibility, and my identity, and for years I took care of it. Cleaned it, maintained the dam, respected the land, and lived simply. But then came the HOA. They arrived dressed in slick suits, flashing fake smiles that never reached their eyes. They were developers, investors, and community leaders, as they like to call themselves. But to me, they were leeches. They looked at my lake and didn't see the decades of care or the natural beauty. It was just a blank canvas for profit. They pitched their plan to the town. 99 vacation cabins, all luxury, all rentable, and all tied to their shiny new homeowners association. They promised tourism, revenue, and community enrichment. The way the town council drooled over their proposal made me sick. Nobody asked what the lake could handle, what it would mean for the ecosystem, or what would happen to the quiet life we'd built around it. They saw dollar signs. I saw destruction. I voiced my concerns. I stood at meetings, trembling but firm, telling them that the lake couldn't sustain that kind of development, that it would destroy wildlife, pollute the water, and strip away the heritage of those who lived here long before the HOA sniffed it out. But do you think they listened? No. They looked at me like I was a stubborn old man, clinging to nostalgia, standing in the way of progress. They smiled those infuriating, patronizing smiles and told me not to worry. They'd handle everything. They had the permits, the money, the backing. And me? I was just one man with an old house by the water. They underestimated me. That was their first mistake. When construction began, I watched in horror. The sound of chainsaws and bulldozers shattered the serenity that had defined the lake for as long as I'd known it. Trees that had stood for decades were ripped out by their roots. The cries of displaced birds echoed across the water. The soil, once soft and fertile, was torn apart, replaced by cement and rebar. My mornings of peaceful fishing turned into mornings of watching arrogant contractors laugh and stomp all over land that didn't belong to them in spirit, even if they held papers that said otherwise. It was like watching someone vandalize your childhood memories piece by piece. They even came onto my property more than once. Accidentally, of course. Workers parked trucks halfway onto my land. HOA members strutted down my dock as though they owned it, pointing out where they could build shared access points. I told them to leave. They laughed. "This whole lake will be a community hub soon," one of them said. "You're going to thank us." That was when I stopped trying to reason with them. That was when I knew there would be no compromise. They'd already decided the lake was theirs. I had to show them the truth, but revenge isn't born overnight. It simmers. It builds quietly while you bide your time. And the one thing about me they never realized, I knew the lake better than anyone. I knew its moods, its currents, and its history. More importantly, I controlled the dam. A small aging structure built decades ago, maintained lovingly by my family. They never cared to ask about it. Never cared to notice the old concrete wall tucked away at the far edge of the property, hidden behind trees. To them it was invisible. To me it was power. Silent, patient power. For months I watched their cabins rise. They advertised online, selling the luxury lakeside experience. Families began booking stays, dreaming of quiet mornings on the water and barbecues by the shore. The HOA members strutted around like kings, holding meetings about boat rentals, jet skis, and marina expansions. My lake, was becoming their playground, and every day the water level crept a little higher against the dam. Every day the pressure built. And every day I felt that same pressure build inside me. They mocked me openly. At one town hall meeting, when I raised concerns about pollution, one of the board members leaned into the microphone and said, "Maybe it's time certain people learned that the lake doesn't belong to them anymore. It belongs to everyone now." The room laughed. I clenched my fists so hard my nails dug crescents into my palms. But I smiled, because by then I knew exactly how their arrogance would end. The night I opened the dam, the world was silent. No machinery, no hammering, no shouting. Just the chorus of crickets and the distant hoot of an owl. The moon hung low, its pale light spilling across the water like a secret. My heart pounded as I walked the narrow path to the dam, flashlight in hand. Every memory of my family's history with the lake swirled in my head. My grandfather teaching me how to grease the gears. My father warning me of the power water held. My own hands calloused from years of maintenance, gripping the cold steel wheel. This was no rash decision. This was justice, delivered by the very force they disrespected. I gripped the wheel, knuckles white, breath ragged. My chest ached with anticipation and fear. Once I turned it, there was no going back. I thought of the cabins, pristine and smug, built too close to the waterline. I thought of their wooden decks, their sparkling glass windows, their fire pits waiting for tourists who would never come. And then with a grunt, I turned the wheel. The dam groaned like a beast waking from slumber. Water surged forward, at first a trickle, then a roaring flood. The sound was deafening, a primal rush of nature reclaiming itself. I stepped back, watching as the current tore free, unstoppable, merciless. Downstream, I could almost picture the scene, water spilling over docks, racing across manicured lawns, lapping at the shiny new cabins. Their dream getaway turned into a nightmare. By morning, the lake was unrecognizable. Cabins half submerged, foundations buckling, decks ripped away. The proud HOA members stood at the shoreline, screaming into their phones, demanding help, demanding answers. Their vacation paradise had become a soggy graveyard of ambition. And me? I stood on my porch, sipping coffee, watching the chaos unfold across the water. Nobody looked at me. Nobody suspected. To them, it was a freak accident, an old dam, poorly maintained, finally giving way. But I knew. The lake knew. And somewhere, I swear my grandfather was smiling. The fallout was delicious. Insurance companies refused to cover the damage, citing negligence in building too close to the floodplain. Lawsuits flew like angry birds, but none landed on me. The HOA fractured, members blaming each other for the disaster. Investors pulled out. The cabins, once symbols of greed, sat abandoned, rotting husks by the waterline. Slowly, nature crept back in. Grass pushed through cracks, birds returned, fish swam undisturbed. The lake healed itself as it always did, patient, relentless, just like me. And me? I felt peace. Not just satisfaction, but vindication. They had treated me like a relic. They had mocked me, ignored me, tried to erase my family's legacy. But in the end, the water remembered. It remembered who respected it and who didn't. And when the reckoning came, it sided with me. So if you've ever felt powerless against the greedy, the arrogant, or the entitled, remember this: patience is power. Knowledge is power. And sometimes, the sweetest revenge is simply letting nature deliver the justice people bring upon themselves. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button and tell me in the comments what's the most satisfying revenge you've ever seen. And don't forget to subscribe, because there are plenty more stories where this one came from.